to do is...
Excuse me, Linda.
Yeah.
I know at my table, we would much rather have an open discussion where we're all asking those questions and having the panelists discuss. I'm wondering if everybody else feels that way, or if you're feeling better about, if we can't do one or the other, which would you prefer? To have one person at the table that you only get to talk to that one person? Or would you rather have the panel that we can ask questions to? So I'm wondering what the group would like, because I'm thinking the panel might have a broader perspective than just talking to one person at your table.
Okay,
Just my
Charlotte,
thought.
Charlotte's on our Women in Politics. It does not matter to me. We're here at your service. From FCM, we're here to be as helpful as we can for you. If you want to stay basically at your tables and answer these amongst yourselves, or would you like to have the folks come up here and ask some more questions of them?
I like the panel.
Which, yeah, okay, then we'll vote the Q&A of the panel or the table discussion. So,
Q&A.
panel Q&A. Oh boy, sure it's going to be on. And then, like council, 7 to 6 votes. And then, how many would like the round table discussion? Okay, then, how about we do it this way? If I could ask, say for about 15 minutes, we'll do that, and then, because I think it's important, if we can, to have some table discussion too. So, there is a microphone there. If you have a question for any panel member, or all of them, run up to that microphone, line up and ask. You people who wanted to ask questions of the panel, get over there.
So will the panel go back up then?
Okay. All right, come on back up then, panel. We've got a microphone. And so, okay, so, well, if you're being asked specifically, or if you have a specific comment you want to make, we'll just have you up to the mic. But get back. Remember. Okay, then we'll go back to our original schedule, but we'll just try to get through it a little faster. Okay, questions of the panel. If you have a question, I would appreciate if you go to that microphone down there so we can all hear it, okay? First, Heidi.
Hi. My question was because we want to see more women in government and decision-making roles, but the reason a lot of us want it is because it's part of equity seeking, and that women are over half the population anyway. But I read that, which something made sense to me, and I don't know how the panel feels about that, is that if the person, the woman that does get into power needs to be an equity-seeking person themselves. Like they have to be actively concerned about getting equality for women within society, and in all ways, and that means childcare issues, it means violence against women, etc. So, and in some cases, if the woman is alone on that, then she needs the equity-seeking groups in the community in this to be pushing for it, or otherwise she will not have a strong enough voice. And I don't know what kind of experiences the panel might have on that.
Okay, so it's kind of an open question. Have any of the panelists had, if I can paraphrase for you, a time when it seemed like you needed help from groups within the community on any issue that would be a woman's thing? Okay.
I'm actually going to be a little bit of a disturber and say that I don't think it is necessary. I think that it may be in your circumstances, it may be useful for you. I came at this as a professional who had a professional concern, and I think that you can come from many directions and with many aspects and many types of support. And I don't believe you necessarily have to have that be your calling card.
comment on this.
Very great.
What I have found in many years of advocacy is that there's nothing stronger than the voice of a mother and wife telling a human story, and if you want to get anywhere, that's what you start with.
I've served 7 terms, and I realize that I represent every individual in my community. So, you know, I have to listen to all groups, and I have to be open-minded and try to represent the views of all of the different sectors in our community.
And I'm going to put a little qualifier on Heather's, because Heather runs with very leftist group, the NDP group up there, which is in power on their municipal government in Vancouver, and yet she answered the way she did. We represent everybody in our communities, and we have to think about the welfare, the well-being, everything. So for everybody, it's a huge task. And well, she answered the way she did. Next question.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. My name's Naomi Abitosway, and remember that long name because I'm going to run as an alderperson at large for the city of Thunder Bay. I haven't filed anything yet, but I've got it all. I've got my forms. Just going to read them over again, make sure I'm, want to commit to this, because it is a big commitment when you decide to run for a council position. I thought of running for mayor, but but that could be mayor of any city. It doesn't just necessarily be Thunder Bay. But anyway, my question is this. When you're a councillor person, regardless of what community you're from in the province, the commitment and the drive that somebody has is something that you really think about and ponder over. What I'd like to know is, everybody talked earlier on why they're in this position, about how they got there, what they were doing, and where they are today. But what I'd like to know is why you're doing those positions and those jobs that you are as council ladies and men, or council person. How did you complement your home life? Like, were you able to, do all those other things too without, becoming stressful and things like that?
When I was first elected, 2 of my 5 kids had left home, but I still had 3 at home. And I was really blessed because my mom helped me, and my mother-in-law helped me, and my friends helped me, because my youngest at the time was only 1.5 years old. So I had lots of support. And I think that you have to rely on that, and you'll find if you're elected to a position, and you build relationships with your colleagues at the table, whichever it is at board or council, that you can rely on them for some support too. And don't be afraid to call on people. It is hard sometimes, especially when things come out of left field and you have illness in your family, or the school's calling you to come down because your kid's being a brat, or but don't let it overwhelm you, and don't be afraid to find a friend that you can go for long walks to pound the pavement and get rid of the stress, and that's a really good way to handle it.
One thing I'm very lucky is, like last June, I was elected as the 3rd Vice President of FCM across Canada. So then I decided on July 6th, a month later, I got married. So I'm very lucky that my spouse is very supportive of me and what I do as well, which is critical. The other thing is, people have to remember these little devices have an off switch. And there are times when you get home at night to shut the damn thing off and sit down and just enjoy the time with your family. If it's that much of an emergency, they will get a hold of you. And people, they may want their snow plowed out tonight, it may be tomorrow. It's not going to be the end of the world. We will all survive. But if there is a crisis, you can rest assured, they will come out and get you if they really need to. But you have to make sure you have that balance at home, because there is nothing more important than home.
You know what, that's a very good question, because when I was first elected, it's a little different in Quebec. I represent a ward. We have like a cabinet system, an executive committee, so you're given specific files. And then I also had the duties of deputy mayor. So when I was first asked to do that, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I can do it all. Guess what? Not easy. So I couldn't have done it without the support of my husband. And I have 2 daughters, and they were still at a pretty young age. So I would bring them, and you're going to get this. If you get elected, you're going to be giving. You're going to be invited to a lot of events, and it's not 9 to 5. I can tell you that now. So basically, you really have to manage your time. And nobody's going to die if you say no to one event, because they're going to have 3 or 4 a year. You can always go to the next one. But I've incorporated my girls in a lot of these events. If there's things they're interested in coming to, they like to come. And I always keep time at least once a week when I'm not traveling. It hasn't happened for the last 2 weeks, at least to have family time, and that's important. You need to keep that.
Sylvia?
Just quickly, yes, you can turn off the phone, but you can also use the phone to keep in contact with your family. I have grown children now. They've moved away since I was elected. I follow them on Facebook. We text each other, and wherever I am, when I get a text from one of my children or my husband, I always answer them. And they're the priority in that aspect. And when an emergency arises, I clear my agenda. And I keep my constituents informed when something like that happens. And you'll find that these people have a lot of compassion for you. My daughter was in the hospital, she was studying out of town, 5 days in the hospital, and when I came back and I kept people apprised of the progress on Facebook, I was surprised at how many emails of support I got and how people were understanding. So don't be shy. You don't have to share everything, but technology is there for you also to use, and you need your support of your family. My husband has picked up the slack a lot.
Okay. And Stella?
I know you asked the question of counselors, but if I might just ask, because I'm going to tell you that that's the most common question I get asked as a member of Parliament, because I travel, and so I'm in Ottawa Monday to Thursday, about 28 or 30 weeks a year, and so it was an adjustment, there's no doubt, and I would echo what the others have said on the panel, and that's that if it weren't for my supportive husband, I would not be able to do this job. Certainly would not be able to do it well. And I have a bit of a different take on family though. I share very little publicly about my children. I'm one of the few politicians who puts a picture of my husband, my children, and our dog on a Christmas card. While I love receiving them and I wish I could do that, I feel that I ran for office, not my children, and I don't want the average person on the street knowing what they look like or knowing what their names are. So I don't even if they're in pictures, I sometimes allow them to be in group photos, but I won't tell the reporter who's printing the photo that that's my child, and I don't give their names. So anyway, it's just, I feel like it's a safety security concern. And anyway, thank you for mentioning that about prioritizing. It's always a juggling act because you're right about it not being a 9-to-5 job. So you have to be prepared for that, and your spouse and family have to be equally prepared.
Any new points? These are all common. Marguerite? New.
Oops, is this on? Yes, I hope it's new. I hope I'll have a new, anyway, when I started, my daughter was 10 years old. And so I had no family, we were brand new in the city, and my husband, and all the way through, was just the biggest support. You really, really needed that. And so when she came home, it was lucky actually. He unfortunately had lost his job for a year there, but when she came home, he was there and could help her with the homework. So if we needed, if something happened, we would have friends around and neighbors that would maybe bail us out or help her. But the one thing I want to put there, how this all worked, because I've been on council 20 years. We all had, my husband had things, my daughter and me. We had a calendar on the fridge, and we always put our things down. And if somebody missed and didn't put down what they were doing that day, we were all screwed. But that was the way. That was the way to keep us on track and make it work.
Okay. There are other people with questions, so let Susie say something.
Thank you. Mine's, I guess, the flip side to me here in that, remember I said you need to get comfortable with conflict? If you have children, they're in school, and if you're in a small community and you're in the middle of a difficult decision at the council table and in the news, families talk, and then the kids talk. And the kids are at school and they're hearing things about mom or dad because of a decision that they made on council. So prepare your children. Teach your children how to deal with those situations when they're at school or out with their peers, because it's really difficult for them. You think it's just about us, it's not. I live in a small community, and my kids were coming home from school saying, Mom, you know what they said about you today? And I was going to punch him out. Well, you can't do that. And my husband, he started carrying my business cards in his wallet. So when someone started to speak to him about a decision I made, he would say, here's my wife's card. She'll be home tonight at 7. Give her a call.
Thank you. More questions
Actually,
here.
I'm just,
Did you jump into something new?
I'm single. I'm divorced. I'm in a big city that's got very ugly politics in it right now. I get spit at, I get death threats, I get screamed at and bullied, and I go home. Well, then you should know these things, and I go home alone. So prepare yourself. Develop your own mental strength. Develop your own health regime. I've started walking late at night because I can't get to regular classes at the gym. So when I get home, if it's 11 o'clock or midnight, I'll go for an hour walk anyway. So not everybody has that time to go home to, so develop your own strengths.
All right, thank you very much. And I see a couple of people who are actually registered candidates already, and they have questions. So, Diane.
So I'm Diane Armstrong, candidate for councillor at large here in Thunder Bay. I've been here, living here in Thunder Bay since 1991. It's a great city. It's awesome. But I didn't bring all my relatives here. So I have my husband, but he's not supporting me the way I would like to. So I have friends, but not that many, because since I don't have my relatives, it's more difficult. Now, I would like to ask you about if ever one or more of you who had a hard time like this and tried to have a supporter to help you.
Hey, Dorothy.
I'm single, never married, don't have children, and I came from the Philippines after being away for 15 years to Kingston, so all my friends were gone. There's a few acquaintances. What you have to do is nurture the relationships that you do have and keep testing them out for the trust. But you have to be guarded and be prepared to be self-independent, because there are times when you just simply can't trust even those friendships, because you don't know how it's going to respond. I've had this circumstance where I thought I could trust someone, and it was leaked to the press the next day that the way I was leaning or thinking and just talking out an issue. And it wasn't the way I ultimately voted, and then it was reflected that I chickened out. So you have to be very careful and just nurture the friendships that you can find, and be careful how you do it. I don't join any clubs or groups anymore. I don't be party to any of the clubs or groups, because they want you there because you're the politician. If I was a member before I became a politician, I kept that relationship, but I didn't go to any new ones. But you just have to have your own strength of character. Don't be scared of anybody. Stand up for what you think, and know that when you go home, you can pet your cat and your dog, and they're going to always come to you.
Irene?
Thank you. Echo the speaker before me, it's so true. I did have a practice husband. My children are long since gone, and as a matter of fact, I don't even have grandchildren who still live in the community where I operate. But the things that I would like to say to all of you who are campaigning, remember, and particularly the lady who said about support, remember the electorate is voting for you, not your husband, not your sister, not really what party you may or may not, or what organization you may or may not be connected to. Key messages from me to you: be true to yourself, know who you are first. You can't be deceptive and still be successful. Don't make promises. that you may not be able to keep or that you can keep. The only promises you should make is to be available, to listen, to work hard, and to be fair. And I agree, go home and talk to your doggies at night or your cats at night. I lost my mom 6 months ago, 104 and a half. I have her 2 cats now. They listen to me still.
I'm sorry. Janelle.
The one important thing that I want to reiterate, and actually it followed very nicely with that, respect is earned, it's not granted. So treat others the way that you want to be treated. And one thing that you have to remember, and it doesn't matter if you're a school board member or if you're the Prime Minister of Canada, at the end of the day, in 40, 50, 60 years from now, we're nothing more than a name on a plaque. So keep those who you trust and you respect close to you.
Next question.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kim Coro. I'm running for Councillor at Large here in Thunder Bay. And I'd like to thank the ladies and gentlemen for coming here and speaking to us as panelists. We really do appreciate your information and your knowledge. What I'd like to ask the panelists is, as you were campaigning, what did you find out didn't work for you? We all hear of what works for you. We all hear of what you should do. What should you avoid?
Some of that will be covered later in the campaign school, but if anybody has an outstanding story.
Any kind of cynicism or sarcasm when answering a question.
Susie?
Yeah, you've heard everyone say door-to-door works. It didn't work for me. I live in a rural area, spread out, and I found if I got on the phone with the phone book, people were more willing to sit there and spend 10 minutes with me on the phone rather than invite me into their home. So that worked for me, and I've been elected 7 terms.
In a rural area, for sure. Marguerite?
Very quickly, just answer your question. Don't make promises. Don't make promises that you can't keep, but just don't make promises because it comes back to you. You just don't do that.
That's really good advice, especially if you want to get re-elected the next term. Don't come in making all these crazy promises.
Well, that was basically like, you know that one. Everybody knows that one. No. I thought it was a natural thing. You just don't promise something that you don't do.
But just one more though.
The other thing to make sure that you do is never say anything bad about your opponent, because that will come back to you very quickly and never in a nice way.
And debates are not seen as a very effective tool in most communities. They have to do them, they're required to, but don't get too worked up about it because almost nobody changes their vote based on the debate.
Exactly.
Don't be scared, I'm not my job.
Don't sweat the debates, because especially here, because every count comes, but she's right. Very few people in that room are going to change their vote by what you say. It just doesn't. That's a local thing too, not just a Vancouver. Okay, next.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim.
Hello, my name is Shelby Chung and I'm running for Northwood City Council. My question to the panel, I find that a lot of the conversations tend to be taken up by what's the proper work-life balance for a woman. I have a supportive husband at home. Not many people can say that. My question to the panel is, when are we going to move the discussion from how to balance your life from kids and husband and keeping your family happy to actual issues of how do you include Aboriginal women to the table? What I really like about women's politics is that it transcends race, socioeconomic background, etc. I want to know, how does the same-sex couple for females get into politics? Other questions other than how to, no offense against kids or anything like that, but how to pick up your child after school if you have a meeting. Those are things that I think are outside of the politics. I mean, if you're a business owner, you run into those. So what does the panel think about moving the conversation level up a notch and including other women?
The campaign school will address many of the nitty-gritties, okay? And there are people from all different backgrounds here on the platform, but not everyone wants to speak about the private life up here, but if there are people also sitting down who've got different backgrounds as well, Shelby. I think that it was important. There was huge interest here on the balance aspect, and especially for people who are just thinking about going into or are thinking about supporting a woman. So I think that's what we're going to do this afternoon. We've got about 20 minutes on that, but it's important. It was really important. So, but if you have some more of those specifics, we can get into them. I was hoping to get into them more in the round tables, but people wanted the questions, the panel. Charlotte.
So
I'm sorry. Pardon me. Michelle wanted to answer too. Okay.
Yeah, I do want to answer. That's an interesting question. And personally, I mean, any woman that runs regardless race, creed, color, more power to you. And I mean, I live in a city, we have a native reserve on ours, and we had a woman that ran for chief. And we all stood behind her. She was her first kick at the can. She came to us, and we provided her with insight and support. And I think that's what we're here to do today. I think personally, once I was elected, regardless, I mean, then I was in a position to help out other women, like we're doing here today, regardless of their background, or their race, or their grade, or their religion, or their politics. And I think that's what's important. We're here to help each other.
Everyone. Yeah. Sylvie?
I think you also have to consider, and I'm all for increasing participation of women in politics. I lobby for this in my city all the time, but I lobby for the right candidate. Yes. I lobby for the woman who can do the job. And if the women that are presenting themselves cannot do the job, I'm saying to people, vote for the man who can. So the idea is to have a multitude of candidates, female and male, so people can pick and choose. And people will choose the person that resembles their value, that listen to them and understand them, and seem to have the better judgment. That's what people are looking for. So it's very, very important. And as far as managing your job and the life and the family, that all depends also on the size of your community. Because some counselors around the table here as panelists, we're working full time. And I'm working between 40 and 60 hours a week, 7 days a week. And this is my choice, and this is my dedication to the job. And in my family, it is my turn to do my career. I raised the kids, he had his shot, and it's my turn now, right? So for other people, it's different, and it's a part-time position, and their municipality enables them to juggle 2 careers and their family, and even be a stay-at-home mom. So all of that depends on how much you want to move forward.
And lastly, Rona.
Thank you. Most of what I wanted to say, you said, but I also wanted to put in the plug for the single father. They're doing the same thing that women have done for years, and there's more and more single fathers that are out there trying to raise their families and be part of community and everything like that. So there needs to be ways to enable parents, people. We need to be respectful of everybody, and it doesn't matter at that point whether you're a man or a woman. And you need to be watching your fellow colleagues to see how they behave and how welcoming they are and how they reach out to people that they see being disenfranchised. So, but we can't forget that it's not just women raising children and looking after homes. Many, many men are doing it now too.
Thank you. And Charlotte?
Quick question, we're almost done. Most of you have been elected numerous times. There's a number of people in this room who are trying to get elected and trying to beat people who have been on council for 10 to 20 years. How do they do that?
We're not going to tell you. It's a national secret. I would say you make your decision early so that you can look at the track record and you can differentiate between yourself and who you're running against, and that you can find a niche and identify a niche that is yours that you can take ownership of to counter what the other candidate is saying, so that you're offering something that the other's not offering. Because if you go out there with the exact same platform saying you're going to lower taxes or something generic, you're not going to unseat someone who's been around for a while. So find the niche, find the thing that makes you different, find the thing that maybe they stepped in the cookies, and how you would represent it. And represent professionally without being derogatory to your opponent.
Heather?
Actually, Dorothy just said almost exactly what I was going to, and I'll only add to it by saying that some people, as they come in as opposition to the existing government or the existing candidates, do so by only expressing oppositional points of view. So don't be that candidate who simply says, I hate everything you do, but doesn't have any of your own positions. Because most governments get unelected, not elected. So what you're going to be looking for is somebody who has not earned the right to be reelected and have a better idea and have your own ideas.
Michelle?
Well, I ran against an incumbent. First time, I lost by 200 votes. Great experience, got my name out there. Second time, I ran against the same incumbent, smarter this time. And what worked for me is when I went to the doors. People appreciated that. But when I went there, once you knock on the door, said who I was, and then the next thing out of my mouth was, and I am here to listen to what you have as concerns. What is it that you have that you would like me to work on in the next mandate? Meanwhile, my opponent was there saying that I was not qualified for the job. So I didn't want to use that same strategy about what it is he had done wrong or what it is. People don't like that. So it's you're not there to talk about you, yes, to introduce yourself. Your main focus is what is it that you are going to be doing for your electorate after you're elected. And that goes a long way.
And Janelle?
My word of advice is don't stay stagnant. Issues change, people's change, communities change. Ensure that you're involved with everybody and you know exactly what's going on all the time. And like I said, don't remain stagnant. Show your growth, be proud of it, and it'll be contagious.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Oh, okay, Angie. Okay.
Hi, I'm Angie Maltese. A couple of you mentioned Facebook and Twitter, and nobody really talked about running a campaign with, nowadays social media is so important. How are you managing social media? Are you using it? Does it matter?
Sylvie?
Yeah, I use social media a lot. It's not that big of a deal. It isn't. I Twitter, I Facebook, I LinkedIn, I YouTube, and I Flickr. How's that? And I have a website. So I do all of the above. You're only as effective as the following you have. So if you have 2,000 people following you, then 2,000 people are listening to you. And out of that, maybe just 70% agree with you. 5% will make you really, really look bad, and you won't be able to recover from that. So you can keep general statements out there. You can throw out there questions to get people conversing about whatever issues you're bringing up. So as you're door to door, and if that's the way you want to go, you can say, such and such said that this was an issue in the ward. What do you guys think about it? And you can generate steam like that. But at the municipal level, like I said, you're only as effective as your following.
Do you need to manage negative media?
Well, that was what I was going to speak to, is don't get into an argument with people on it. If you start responding to people on Twitter and Facebook, it'll take a life of its own on. Before you know, you'll have thousands of people. Because you always have to remember the old adage, never argue with a fool in public, because the public doesn't know the difference.
Thank you. And in the interest of time, I just want to remind everyone that we can have a break soon and get a beverage and something to eat and continue talking around our tables or interacting. Want to also remind folks that today is International Women's Day. A councillor from Montreal, Maurice Cohen, has donated roses. There's a bouquet of roses up here and one at the back. He gave one to all of the women at FCM, the FCM board. All the men of Quebec caucus paid for it. There were 5 roses, and I don't know, like the FCM staff, everybody, female go, 1 or 2 or 3. Anyway, the number of them are here, and at the end of the day, that can be a little gift for any of you who'd like to take home a rose honoring on International Women's Day. So we're gonna have a break time, discuss, and then be back here at 3. A lot of answers will come to you during the campaign school.